Welcome to the Just Ingredients podcast. I'm Cara Lynn, and here we talk all things nourishing to the mind, body, and soul. This is a place where you can find just good ingredients to life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, we are excited to welcome Tietje, the owner and lead herbalist at Earthley Wellness, a holistic brand that many of you probably know for its herbal remedies, magnesium lotion, educational resources, and more. Kate is a dedicated advocate for medical freedom and natural living. She's the author of Natural Remedies for Kids and the Green Family Children's Book Series. When she's not formulating tinctures or writing, she's homeschooling her 6 kids and tending to her homestead in Ohio. Welcome to the show, Kate.
Thanks for having me.
That is fascinating that you do all that you have 6 kids and a homestead and you do these tinctures. So before we dive into the topic today, will you just tell my listeners a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. So I got started with natural health back in about 2009 officially because I was pregnant with my second baby. And my first baby had a bunch of food allergies and eczema and just a lot of different stuff going on. And the doctors kept telling me, oh, that's normal. That's just how, that happens to all kids. And I didn't like that answer. I wanted something better for my baby. So I started to do a lot of research and try to figure out like what else might be out there for her. And I stumbled upon like Weston A. Price, and I found an herbalist. I was taking a childbirth ed class with my for my second pregnancy, and she was like, I asked her a bunch of questions, figured out a lot of stuff, started my blog, Modern Alternative Mama, in the fall of 2009 to kind of tell everybody about it. And just really started researching herbalism for myself and my family. And then after a few years, my community, I was teaching local make and take nights. And, like my blog had grown to reach hundreds of thousands of people every year. And my favorite thing was just playing with herbs. And I really wanted to do a lot more of that. And that eventually led to Earthly, where I can play with herbs all day long.
I was going to say it's a whole new step to actually take that love and passion for herbs to actually creating a business. And so, what led you to actually creating Earthly? Just that you wanted to get these products into the hands of lots of people?
So I was sharing all of these recipes on my blog, and a lot of people were coming to me after a while and saying, hey, I love this, but I'm not a DIY person. I'm never going to make any of this stuff. Can I buy it from you? And I really wanted to do that because I love making things. I love perfecting things. And my husband was nervous because it's a whole thing, as I know to have a business where you have to carry inventory and manufacture and do all that stuff. But I read and reread the FDA regulations, and I'm like, okay, I think I understand this well enough, and I really want to give it a shot. So we made our first product, which was our elderberry syrup kit, in the fall of 2016. And it just really took off. And I was like, I really love doing this. I want to do more of this. And so everything that we've been using for ourselves and in our community for years, we just started launching those things, and it kept growing.
It has grown. It is, at least here in Utah, it's very well known, and I know a lot of moms that use your products, and especially new moms. I know they love the teething one for their babies, and I've heard a lot about the magnesium lotion and so many people using that. And so I'm curious, how do you decide which products to make?
So the teething one is fun. I made that originally for my third and fourth babies. My third baby was about a year old, and we had been using like all the homeopathic stuff, which worked for him. Like he'd stop being fussy and whiny, but he would not want to sleep. He would just be wide awake and happy. And at midnight, that doesn't work. Like it's time to go to bed. So I needed an alternative solution that was going to help him and allow him to rest. So being a year old, I mixed cloves and catnip, and I just made a tea for him, and that worked really well. But then I knew when I was already pregnant with my fourth baby, and I knew that when he was 4 to 6 months old and started teething, like, I can't hand a cup of tea to an infant. So I had to do it some different way, and that led to doing a tincture. and that was the only teething remedy that I made for him and for my 5th and for my 6th, and it worked really well for all of them, and I was making it for other people that were local to us, and so that's kinda how that one came about, was just that I had a need, and then other people had a need, and I'm like, "Yeah, let's do this." And we have a lot of fun stories like that where it's just either I had a need or somebody that was working with me had a need. They're like, "I wish we had a thing that did this." We had one woman who said, "Hey, can we make a soap that's good for your hair, face, and body? Because my husband's gonna get in the shower and grab whatever bar of soap he can find and just use it head to toe either way. So if we had one that was actually meant for that, maybe it would go a little better." So, yeah, anytime there was a need, we just let's create something.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun. That honestly is a lot of times how I create products. I mean, my protein powders came about because my teenage boys all wanted protein powders and they were bringing home protein powders with junk ingredients because they liked the taste of it. And I would try to bring some home that had good ingredients, but they hated the taste of them. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make one that has a good taste and good ingredients. So I love that that is, how you do it too. It's just sort of like, okay, what do people need?
Yeah, and we did try your protein powder recently when you sent us some of those samples, and everybody on the management team ended up loving it, and they all ended up buying more. And they had been searching
Oh,
for a while
good.
to find one that was, like you said, it was good for them and it actually tasted good, and so they found that in yours.
Oh, I love hearing that. Well, thank you. Well, I'm a mom of 6, you're a mom of 6, and so I actually wanna talk about, like, some of these herbal remedies, natural alternatives, things like that with kids. So, first of all, I'm curious to know, how do you approach the balance between using natural remedies and seeking conventional medical care for your kids?
So, we have done very, very little as far as conventional medical care. Like, I don't do any kind of well care for them because I don't think that the allopathic system is the right one for wellness. That said, if something happens, like, my son broke his arm when he was 4, so we went to urgent care and he had a cast and, we followed up on that. And then, yes, after his cast was off, I was putting comfrey salve on him and taking him to the chiropractor to continue healing and healing well. And then my oldest son, when he was about 13, he was having a ton of pain on his right side. And so we took him in to rule out appendicitis just because, I'm not gonna, like, if it's serious like that and he might need surgery, I'm not gonna just not do anything. But they ultimately said, like, "No, it's not appendicitis, and we don't have any idea what's going on, so I just go home." Okay, well, then I took over from there, and, I had castor packs on his side, and I had him using different herbal remedies, and he turned it around in a couple of days, but we basically use them if there were any kind of major trauma care or if there's, like, an emergency, like, if it were appendicitis or if they couldn't breathe for some reason, like, that's luckily, my kids have never had a serious respiratory illness where I was concerned about that, but that's where we would use it, like, "I can't handle this, and this is, like, life or death in the next few hours, like, we need to get you some help here." But most everything else we're gonna handle at home.
Okay, that's good to know. So I'm curious because that actually scares some people. And so I tell some people, like, well, just work your way into that. Like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing immediately. So let's talk about some natural remedies for families, like maybe your 5 top ones that you like to use or 5 easy ones that people could use.
Well, I mean, I mostly use earthly products, obviously, for my family. I do keep calendula as a whole herb around just all the time. I even take it to travel with it. Like, I use the calendula if somebody has gotten, like, a little infected hangnail or something kinda, or toe, some little minor thing, I'll have them soak it in that. If they've gotten, like, eye irritation, I'll use the calendula there, like, just make a nice tea, dip a clean cotton round in it, put that on their eye. Um any kind of, like, weird little topical thing that's going on, I'm pretty much like, put some calendula on it. Calendula salve is also great, and that's something you don't have to prepare. We have all-purpose salve that has calendula in it, as well as lavender and chamomile. We use that a lot for, like, minor burns, bug bites, cuts, scrapes, really any little thing that's gonna happen. We use an herbal tincture called Feel Better Fast, which has, fennel and cinnamon, elderflower, um, I can't remember the other 2 herbs, echinacea, not remembering the 5th one right now. but that's just general immune support, like, anyone who goes, I don't feel well, I don't know what's going on," um, I'm gonna reach for that one. Elderberry we use a lot if they are having any kind of respiratory thing, as well as mullein. We have that in tincture form and elderberry elixir, both of those are in it. Those are probably the 3 that I use them absolute most with the kids.
Yeah, that's good to know. Elderberry, like you, I've been using for years and years, but I love that it's becoming more trendy and more popular. It's more mainstream, I guess you could say. Tell us a little bit more about elderberry and why it's so amazing.
So elderberries are they're rich in vitamin C, they're rich in quercetin, which I know a lot of people have been looking for quercetin in the last few years. Um, there are actual studies done on elderberries showing that it can reduce the duration of a cold and relieve some symptoms of respiratory illnesses. And, part of it's that vitamin C, part of it's other constituents, but it's an immune modulator. It's not a booster. I don't like the boost word because that gives us this idea that it's like revving up your immune system just over and over and over again, and that's like that eventually is autoimmunity. That's not something we want to do, but it's a modulator. If you are not feeling well, it's going to help your immune system jump into action to help you get better. And if you're feeling fine, it's anti-inflammatory. It's going to calm your immune system down. And I love that about herbs that they're not just one constituent, so they can have multiple actions depending on what is needed in your body. So elderberry is a great example of that, and it's also good for even general immune support.
Okay, so talking about immune support, we're past the winter now, but wintertime, I telling you every day, someone is asking me on a DM, like, my child's not feeling good. What should I do to help their immune system? And so, besides elderberry, what are your favorite things to help with their immune system?
So I reach for things like dandelion leaf, nettle leaf, because those are just good sort of multivitamins, nutrient-rich herbs. Amla berry or rose hips or acerola, because those are rich in vitamin C. Elderflower sometimes, it's a little bit like it's from the same plant as elderberry, but the mode of action is just a little bit different, in terms of immune support. I do have a product called Adaptogenic Immunity that contains some of those things, so I do use that with my kids in the winter, but yeah, those are some of my favorite herbs.
Okay, and so talking about kids getting sick, let's talk about fevers. What do you do when your child has a fever?
So I have never lowered a fever. Um, and I know that scares parents, like, I see parents in moms groups all the time going, "My kid has a fever of 100.5, like, it's a high fever, what am I gonna do?" And deep breath. It's not a high fever, it will be okay. Um, Honestly, I try to keep them warm because there's a reason that their body has a fever, and I wanna support what it's trying to do, and I found that if I support their bodies and I allow the fever and I keep them warm, then it usually breaks in less than 24 hours. I think we've only had a fever that lasted longer than that maybe once ever in all the years of kids. And, I don't want them so warm that they're, like, uncomfortable, but I know that if I, like, dress them lightly and unwrap them a lot, that they're shivering and they feel those chills because their body's trying to maintain that fever, and that's really uncomfortable. So I keep them kind of lightly wrapped, I put them in a warm bath, I just kind of let them rest, and, if they wanna drink anything, like, usually they wanna sleep, but if they're awake and they're alert, then I'll have them just sip herbal tea, and I'll just wait, and like I said, it usually breaks in less than 24 hours.
So many people, like you said, freak out when their kids get a fever, and I almost wish well, not almost, I wish we could change the narrative that when kids get a fever, we're like, "Oh, thankfully, our kid's body is doing what it's supposed to do. It's fighting this infection or this virus, this bacteria, whatever. It's trying to do it on its own." And so I'm always like, "Oh, the body is doing its job, like, thank you."
Yeah, I mean, when a kid has a fever, like, look at their behavior. Like, yes, they have a fever, but are they alert? Like, will they talk to you if you talk to them? Are they able to sleep? Are they calm? Like, they're fine. If they're screaming in pain, they're unable to be calmed, they can't eat or drink, they can't sleep, like, s something's not right, and, like, then you might wanna consider getting some help, but the fever alone is not a cause for concern.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that because exactly, if there is something, that could be very harmful, then yeah, for sure, go get medical help. But if it's the typical fever that's gonna break in 24 hours, then support the child's body, and go from there. So, Tell me, your thoughts. This is a controversial topic out there, but tell me your thoughts on Tylenol for fevers or Tylenol in general.
So I only used Tylenol for my oldest when she was a baby because I didn't know yet. And since I've learned about it, I have not used it with any of my others. And I honestly think that it contributed to some of the health issues that she had because she wasn't like she was doing okay. And then we used Tylenol a lot for in the last few years of her or few years, haha, for a few months of her first year. And then she started to have, like, restrictive diet and, like, the eczema got worse and, like, all these other things happened, and I do think the Tylenol contributed to that. It is the leading cause of liver failure in this country, and the overdose is only, like, 2 to 5 times what a healthy dose is supposed to be, so it really just doesn't take a lot to cause that, and it depletes glutathione in the body, which the body needs in order to heal and, immune function, all that fun stuff. So, just something that I would not choose to use, especially when there's so many safe herbal alternatives.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said. Was not on a health journey when I had my first 2 boys either, and I remember going to the pediatrician, they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, just give them some Tylenol." And now knowing that they have the MTHFR gene and actually need more glutathione to help their liver, I'm like, "Wow, that was like the complete opposite thing that we should have been doing." But, once you know, then you do better. But I think some people think that's a little woo-woo or don't care about it and are like, "Eh, we'll still use Tylenol."
Yeah. I mean, you do what you know, and if you've never really dug into using alternatives, you see ginger and you're like, "That's a spice that I use in apple pie." Like, what how is this going to benefit my health? How is this gonna help me with pain or whatever is going on? It doesn't feel like it's enough. And the studies show that it is, and the experiences that people have had for hundreds, thousands of years show that it is. But if you haven't experienced it, then it just feels weird.
True, that's really good. Okay, so with Tylenol, though, obviously a lot of people are using it to take the pain away, obviously. So you have products, though, for certain circumstances to take the pain away, such as teething, because a lot of parents give their babies, Tylenol for teething. So do you have other products besides that that can help with pain?
Yes, so we've got a tincture called Pain Potion, which has turmeric and meadowsweet. Meadowsweet is similar to the willow bark, like, it has salicylic acid in it, like natural aspirin. We've got one called anti-inflammatory, and it's literally like ginger and cinnamon, just potent anti-inflammatories. My mom uses that one a lot. She's in her 70s and she has some arthritis, and it helps her a lot to deal with that. Um Let's see. We have pain relief rub, and that can be for anybody, like, my mom does use that for arthritis as well, it has CBD in it. But others have used it if they have, like, muscle strains or, whatever else might be going on. Magic Muscle Ease, I made that's arnica and magnesium combined. I made that when I was pregnant with my youngest because I was traveling and, like, having to be on my feet and then carry heavy luggage, like, by the time I got home, I was so sore that I couldn't walk, and I made this and I combined it, and it was hours later and I was fine and up and moving, and so I was like, "Yep." So, yes, several different options.
Yeah, a lot of times pain, people just want to mask with the Tylenol, but sometimes it's just your body telling you something is off, like some inflammation is going on, and so some turmeric and some of those herbs work great for that. So sometimes we need to just, well, not sometimes, all the time, I think we should listen to our body and try to understand why that pain is occurring.
Absolutely.
Okay, so talking about Tylenol, not too many use it. Another one that is very trendy right now is antibiotic overuse. And what are your thoughts on this? Do you believe every infection needs an antibiotic?
No, I think the majority of them do not. Like, if somebody got, bacterial meningitis and they're going to die in 24 hours, would I use an antibiotic? Yeah, I mean, that's life or death. There are situations in which that's necessary, but people usually get them for sinus infections or ear infections, kind of, things that are not life-threatening, but they are very annoying or painful to deal with. And more, a lot of those things are actually caused by fungus and not by bacteria. And when that's true, the antibiotic's not gonna do anything because not only does the antibiotic not work on things that aren't bacteria, but most of the common antibiotics are made from mold. So you're adding mold to try to help mold. That's not gonna do you any good. That's probably gonna I mean, it is going to destroy your gut flora and it is gonna make things worse. And then, yes, resistance comes about, so then when we do have those life-threatening situations, the antibiotics may not work. So I would much rather personally completely avoid them unless it was a truly life-threatening situation, use herbs to deal with whatever is going on, and then if I found myself in a place where, like, "Wow, I really do need this," know that it's gonna work.
I know that it give antibiotics all the time to little kids for ear infections, and the majority of the time, if they would just wait a few days, those ear infections clear. But it's, hard because the kids are in pain and, pulling on their ear and not sleeping well, so people wanna just turn to a magic pill, hoping the antibiotic's a magic pill. But I'm assuming do you have stuff for earaches?
Yeah, we have a product called Earache Ease, and I actually had to use it with my 7 and 9-year-olds recently. Like, they both had their first ear infections ever, and we used that. We used hydrogen peroxide. We kinda alternated between those 2. I was also giving them the elderberry elixir and the Feel Better Fast for just internal support, and it took about, like, 3 days. They weren't, like, in pain the entire time. It kinda came and went, but 3 days for it to, like, completely resolve on its own, and I can't imagine that an antibiotic is gonna be any faster than that, and now their gut flora is not hurt, and they're fine.
We haven't had a ear infection for a really long time in our house, so knock on wood, so that's why I haven't used your product, but when they were younger, we had a homeopathic drop, and I'm telling you, it worked all the time. The next morning, they would be fine, and I'm like, "This thing is better than any antibiotic out there." It was
Yeah,
almost like a magic pill.
yeah, I love how natural remedies work. I really do.
Yeah. So it's just we've gotta teach more parents about them and make them so they're not so afraid to use them. That I think people are just afraid and like, "I don't know how to use it. I'm not quite sure if my child can overdose on it or I'm gonna give too much of it, or it's really gonna be effective." And sometimes I'm like, "Just try it and see. They're natural. They usually won't do much harm if you give too much."
Yeah, we do hear that a lot. People will give their kids 6 drops instead of 5, and then they're gonna get on our on-site chat and be like, "Oh my gosh, do I need to call poison control? Is my kid gonna get sick? Is something gonna happen?" Again, deep breath. No, like, while there are herbs that are a little bit more, you have to be more cautious with them. Yeah, I don't use those because I feel like if you have to be that cautious, that's something that you should maybe talk to a practitioner about, somebody who's really experienced with herbs who can guide you on the best dose for you. I purposely use herbs that are very safe, that are often nutritive, so you could drink the whole bottle and it's not I mean, the glycerin might give you a stomach ache and the alcohol, like, I wouldn't recommend drinking that much alcohol, especially for a child, but, the herbs themselves are not going to hurt you, even in much higher doses. Like, we drink these things in cups of tea. This is fine.
Yeah, I love that you said that. Let's take a quick break to hear from our show sponsor. I think that companies should be proud of what they're making and how they're making it. That's why I love Earthley Wellness. Earthley creates clean, effective wellness products using real, recognizable ingredients. No fillers, no toxins, and nothing synthetic. Whether it's herbal remedies, skincare, or supplements, their products are thoughtfully crafted and made right here in the US. One of my personal favorites is their Good Night Lotion. It's magnesium rich and supports restful sleep naturally. And my nieces swear by Earthley's Teeth Tamer for their babies. It's a gentle herbal blend that helps soothe teething pain. No dyes, no drugs, just natural relief that actually works. If you're looking to swap out the conventional for clean, Earthly is a great place to start. Use code JUSTINGREDIENTS for 10% off today at earthly.com/justingredients. Now back to the show. Okay, so let's move to another topic about kids and another trendy topic on social media, detoxing. So, what does it actually mean for a child to detox?
So there's a lot of misconceptions about detox. People feel like you have to have this harsh cleanse or you're not really helping anything. And people who are critical of detox are like, well, that's what you have a liver and kidney for. Yes, but detoxing essentially means supporting the liver and kidneys to take the burden off of them. They're doing their jobs to help eliminate stuff that shouldn't be in your body. But if there's too much of that stuff, they get overworked and then they get sluggish and they're not doing their job effectively. And then stuff is building up. And that might show up as skin rashes or fatigue or, um, you know, digestive issues, any number of different things. And so the goal is to reduce whatever bad stuff or toxins that is that's happening. So is it diet? Is it, something in the water? Is it like medicine that they're taking that's not, they don't need it to live? Like what's going on that they're doing? Removing those things and then helping to heal and seal the gut because that's usually involved. Um, if you are experiencing a lot of stress, the high cortisol levels can actually create leaky gut. So that's where the proteins can like slip through the gut. There's kind of holes in the gut. So trying to heal that so that you're not sensitizing the child, and then again supporting the liver and kidneys. So healthy diet is obviously number one for especially for kids, and then everything else just needs to be gentle. Like I've done castor packs with some of them. I've done like peppermint is a really good herb for supporting the liver gently. Turmeric is also really good for that. Cranberry juice is good for supporting kidneys. Probiotic foods, or sometimes if you find a high quality probiotic supplement, like that's where I'd start with kids generally.
When you say this, are you talking about doing this on a daily basis or like a couple times a year? Or is there a way that you can tell that your child needs a detox?
So, I mean, healthy diet is obviously all the time because that helps to prevent things from building up. It's safe to do things like cups of peppermint tea whenever you feel like it, just to kind of keep the liver going, how it's supposed to. Um, Most parents aren't looking to detox unless there's a thing that's happened. Their child is displaying symptoms, or, like we've seen, actually my son, when he broke his arm, it was the bones weren't quite aligned, so he had to be put under to be able to realign the bones, and before he could get the cast on, and they gave him ketamine. And so I created an herbal tincture called Liver Love because I wanted to be able to remove the ketamine from his system, after that happened. So situations like that where that they've been exposed to something that is not great for them, um, but, like, most of the time, they don't need to do any specific detox unless, like, you're seeing some concerning symptoms.
Okay, so what would those concerning symptoms be? I know parents are like, "Wait, well, when is that then?"
Yeah. Um, if they're having digestive distress, like they're bloating after eating or, constipation, diarrhea on a regular basis, if they have a lot of eczema or other skin rashes going on, sometimes behavior issues if they're not tied to anything like that's obvious that's going on in their lives, but they're just really, they're angry, they're frustrated, they're sad, overwhelmed. That can be related because of that gut brain connection. If they're not sleeping well on a consistent basis, um, really anything that you're like, this child is not okay, they're not functioning very well, that could be a sign that something's going on and a detox may be beneficial.
Okay, as you were saying that, I've got lots of followers with kids that don't sleep well, and I know this because I get DM'd about it a lot. So, let's take one of these followers of mine, and they have kids that don't sleep well. So, they're listening to this podcast. Where do they start? Do they start by buying your liver love, or what do you suggest?
So for sleep issues alone, I would start with magnesium. And honestly, magnesium is great even if you start a detox or are planning to, because our bodies burn through magnesium so quickly when we're under stress, and detoxing is definitely creating a little bit of stress. So that is the number one place I would start, is getting them some magnesium.
Okay, so let's take one of the other symptoms and the moodiness, and someone's like, "Oh, my kid is moody and I need to do a detox." So is that when you say that, does that mean, okay, 1, I'm gonna clean up their diet, and 2, I'm going to buy Liver Love?
Potentially, like, that's a tough one because moodiness in a 5-year-old and moodiness in a 15-year-old might be from entirely different causes because 'cause you've got the hormones going on when they're older. And, there is the possibility that there's stress at school or there's something going on, and so I don't wanna jump to, like, that's 100% that you need to do a detox, but if you can't figure out what's going on, like, there isn't something obvious that's happening, um, liver love might not be a bad place to start. Um, yeah, it's really hard to say without knowing an individual child's situation, but, um, it liver love is definitely not going to hurt. The herbs are very mild.
Well, and that is a hard question because I talk about depression on my page all the time, and it's never one cause. There are multiple, many, many reasons that can contribute to depression. So, same with moodiness. So, I was just saying if someone was listening to this and is interested in wanting to detox, is that how they first start? Is cleaning up the diet and buying your liver love or buying something else?
In a very general sense, yes, I would say that's a good place to start. And then obviously, if anybody has more in-depth concerns, like seek out a practitioner near you who's holistic minded and see if they can help guide you.
Okay, so parents that are curious in detoxing, do you sell other things that can help with detox?
Yes, we have several other products. We have a tincture called Candida Cleanse. We have gut health oil. We have a detox bath. We have the castor packs, and we have a guide about intro to gut health and detoxing. And I would recommend reading through that and figuring out like what's going to work best for you in your situation.
Oh, I'm curious on some of these. Can we go through some of these?
Sure.
So, your gut oil, tell me about that because a lot of people have gut issues.
So that is a combination of coconut oil, pumpkin seed oil, and it's infused with whole cloves and calendula. And they all have some like anti-inflammatory, anti-parasitic, antifungal properties that can help your gut kind of get back into balance, whatever's going on.
And can this be used for little kids and adults?
Yes, but we do recommend starting slow with the little ones, like, literally a drop at a time, and just some people will take it and they can take a whole dropper full and they're like, "Yeah, like, I feel fine." Other people take a couple of drops and they're like, I need to stay close to my bathroom." So, start slow, see how it goes.
Okay. Let's also talk about your castor packs because that's trendy on social media right now too. Why is this becoming trendy?
So, castor oil contains richolinic acid, and that particular fatty acid penetrates the skin much more deeply than other fatty acids do. And it can actually also help whatever you might mix with it penetrate the skin more deeply too. And that can help to break up scar tissue and to like calm inflammation. A lot of people use it over their livers to aid detox because it can help with um like getting things moving again in the liver, breaking up some of that congestion. Women will use it sometimes, lower abdomen, uterus, ovaries, sometimes to help break up cysts or um, just calm cramps, things like that. I've seen people use it a lot of different places. Those are probably the two most common, but I used it on my kidneys when I had a kidney infection while pregnant years and years ago. And that was beneficial to help with that pain. So uh, lots of good uses for castor oil.
Well, I love that these castor oil packs are becoming more trendy because just the other day, my daughter, who's in college, is like, Mom, a roommate of mine is now using the castor oil packs and her cycle is back to being monthly. And I was like, yeah, that could help because it's helping the liver, and the liver plays a huge role with, metabolizing our estrogen and things like that. And so, do you see that with women that it helps with their cycle?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it can help with regulating it, but it can also help with pain, cramping, excessive bleeding. I would pair it with something like alfalfa if you're experiencing excessive bleeding because that's rich in vitamin K and that can kind of help calm that down. But yes, that's definitely beneficial.
Okay, and then tell me about your detox bath that you sell.
So that one has like ginger, yarrow, elderflower, some different things, and it helps with lymphatic support because if you're detoxing, then you're creating a lot of cellular waste, basically, as your body's breaking down stuff that shouldn't be there. And that cellular waste is going to be taken through the lymphatic system and then fed back into your blood and then excreted. And if it gets stuck in that lymphatic system, then that's where that like soreness and achiness kind of comes from, like just under your skin that you kind of can get when you're sick. And so the detox bath can help get that stuff moving again so that your body can get it out.
So I know a lot of new moms use detox type bath things for little kids after vaccination. So is this something that could be used for that or no?
Yeah, they could use that afterward. I think we've had a lot of parents do that.
So I'm curious, as you make these things, what is the top selling product there? What is the thing that everybody loves the most at Earthly?
It's a toss up between Goodnight Lotion and Feel Better Fast. Those are the top two and depends on what season we're in. But yeah, those two.
And so the Feel Better Fast, can that be used for little kids, like tiny babies, all the way to adults or
Yeah, we say 6 months plus, and I started using it with my youngest, when he was about 7 months. I think that's right around the time we created it, so I just didn't have it, any sooner than that. Um, but yeah, it's meant for like, babies that can eat food and older.
and so if they start getting a sore throat or, a cough or, headaches or hurting ears, it's for any of that?
Yeah, we created it because we were like, when parents are looking for a natural remedy and their kids are like, "I just don't feel well," kids can't always describe their symptoms really well, and parents don't wanna have a medicine cabinet full of 25 different things and then trying to figure out which ones of these things do I use for this exact thing, especially when they're just getting started. So we wanted to have one generic remedy that we're like, "If you don't know where to start, just start here."
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'm actually curious though about your parasite cleanse because I know you have a parasite cleanse. Just yesterday at work, we were talking about parasite cleanses for kids. So, is your parasite cleanse for kids and adults or no?
Yeah, it can be used for both. If you're looking for something that's for kids, you want gentler herbs, so you're gonna be looking at cloves and calendula, the pumpkin seed, I can't remember all the different herbs, but these are a little bit milder, whereas something like wormwood or, black walnut hull that are commonly used for adults is a little bit, stronger, and I wouldn't start there with a kid.
But your parasite cleanse, you could.
Yes, we don't use the black walnut or the wormwood.
Okay, so we were just talking about how kids in other countries do parasite cleanses and it's not normal or common here in America. So, is this something that kids do once a year, once a month? How often should a child do a parasite cleanse?
So I've never done it just because, but we've seen parents come and go, well, my kid has chronic gut issues and their bellies are bloated. And I think I saw something moving when I was changing their diapers. What do I do? And then, okay, well, let's try a parasite cleanse at that point and see how it goes. And some people have seen literal worms expelled after that point, and it's gross, but at least you know something's changing for the better.
Okay, so for adults, because I know lots of people are shouting out parasite cleanses on the internet. So if adults were to do this, is this like a 3-day process, 5-day process, month-long process? What does this entail?
It's probably gonna take at least a couple of weeks. It just depends on like, we say go for at least a few days after your symptoms have resolved. If it's been, like, a big ongoing issue, we say go for a couple of weeks at least after your symptoms have been resolved because you might have taken care of the initial part, but then maybe um, there's eggs or there's other things that are going on that, like, you haven't kind of taken care of yet, so you need to kinda keep up with it for a little bit. Um, I think the average time like, everybody's a little bit different again, depending on their symptoms and the severity and what's going on. I think most people do it for at least 2 weeks.
And how does an adult know that they should do a parasite cleanse?
Yeah, they're probably gonna see a lot of bloating after they're eating, they might lack energy because they're not really absorbing the nutrients from their food because the parasites are doing that. Sometimes they'll like if like with ringworm, like you'll literally see rashes. If you have like itching in private areas, that can be a sign as well that there's something going on. Sometimes if the gut health is off, they might see, like, yeast infections, and that may or may not be parasites, that may just be yeast, but sometimes they can go together, so that's kinda stuff.
Okay, interesting. So tell me then, with yours, do you need to do it around the time of a full moon?
You don't have to. We've certainly had people who have had success not doing that. We've also had people who've deliberately done it around the full moon, and they've seen results happen there. Um, I don't have enough details to know if it happens faster around the full moon, but I know that it's worked for people either way.
And so is this just a tincture that they take once or twice a day?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a set of a couple of tinctures that they take, once or twice a day. There's a parasite detox guide that goes with it that has all of the information.
I've heard before because I've used tinctures. I tell people about tinctures, but so many parents are like, "Oh, my kids hate tinctures. They hate the taste of them. I can't ever get them to take them." So do you have a trick for getting kids to take tinctures?
So some of the ones that we make are glycerin based and they actually do taste good. And so those are pretty easy. Like the Feel Better Fast is glycerin and it has cinnamon, so it just tastes like sweet cinnamon. If you're taking an alcohol based tincture, which with the dosages that kids would use, a couple of drops, I feel safe using alcohol with kids because it's so tiny. But you can mix it in a drink or into a smoothie or something like that, or you can, or a spoonful of raw honey if you wanna do that, to make it a little bit more palatable.
Okay. I asked you that question, but I have one more question about the parasites. How do people know when they're done doing the parasite cleanse and shouldn't continue anymore? Will they see the worms actually come out and then they're done seeing them, or their symptoms are just gone, or how do they know?
Some people do see the worms come out and then kinda stop. Some people will notice that the bloating goes away, skin rashes clear up, their energy is up, they're sleeping better, usually just a resolution of whatever symptoms that they've got going on.
And when they use your parasite cleanse, do they need to eat a certain way?
It's going to help if you avoid sugar and white flour and all the processed things that can kinda help feed them. Um, but they don't have to do any kind of super strict diet just because I know that that can be a barrier for a lot of people to wanting to go through any of these types of things. So just try to eat clean and healthy, pasture raised meats, vegetables, fresh fruit, and not too much processed stuff.
I do love that because there are some out there that are very intense that I'm like, I can't do 14 days of just liquids or of just juice or whatever they are, you know? So I do like it that I could just still eat healthy and do yours. Now that we've talked about all these different herbs, all these different tinctures, different illnesses for kids, if someone's listening today, what is one simple step that parents can take today to start protecting their kids' health more naturally?
One simple step. Honestly, I think magnesium is where I would start if I were trying to figure out in the sea of all the supplements and all the things that you can do. I would start just get them some form of magnesium because it's going to promote them sleeping better. And if you sleep better, then you're going to feel better. Your mental health is going to be better. Your physical health is going to be better. It's going to support anything else you might do. If you're looking at gut health or detox or anything else, magnesium is going to be beneficial. So, um, yeah, I'd start there.
I do love that because I think sleep is the magic pill. So if we can get our kids to sleep, if we can get us to sleep, so many things just work better. Our immune system works better. Our mental health is better. The detoxing is better. Hormones do better. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I love that if you guys have never done anything naturally, just simply start with magnesium. So I love that advice. Okay, I'm just curious, off topic of naturally healing. You being a mom of 6 kids, I'm a mom of 6 kids. Tell me how you run a business and a homestead and homeschool and do it all.
Well, I don't do it alone. I have a team behind me that is fantastic. So, my team at work, they do a lot of different things here that, I couldn't do by myself. And then as my kids have gotten older, most of them are teenagers now, they help. Like one of my sons wants to be a chef, so he makes dinner for us a lot of times. Um, and we have a great community too. Literally, while we're talking right now, my younger three are at a drop-off homeschool program with, women that I've known for years and that actually also work at Earthley, but, just it's a whole community thing. Like, there's no way that I could do it alone.
I love that because I could never do it alone either. I've got a lot of people that help me, and I do tell moms because some moms are like, "I could never do that," and I always say there's a time and a season for everything because my kids now are older also. I got 4 in college, that's how old mine are, but they're close by, so they can still help, and they sometimes run the younger kids, to their sporting events and practices and classes, and they yesterday, one of them ran carpool for us. So, to you moms out there, there's a time and a season for everything, and enjoy the season that you're in because they change quickly. So, I love that you say that have others helping you. We can't do it alone, that's for sure. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's been fun talking to you. Will you just tell my listeners where they can find out more about your company and buy your products and learn more?
Sure. So you can find us on our website, earthly.com, or we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well.
And what are is it just Earthly on your social media platforms?
It's listed as Earthly Wellness on most of the social media.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again for being here. It has been fun talking to you. I always end my podcast by asking my guests what they have found to be the best ingredient to life. What would you say it is?
Peace. Don't let people destroy your peace. Turn off the social media, go outside, like walk in the grass, feel the sun. Just find whatever works for peace for you.
Oh, I love that so much because if you can feel the peace, then you're not feeling the stress, and the stress is what can cause us to be so sick. And so, I love that. Just take a few moments, even out of the day, just to find that peace if you need it. If things are getting crazy, I actually love my front porch, and the sunlight hits my front porch, and so I'll just go sit out on my front porch just to feel that peace for a few minutes
That's awesome.
throughout in the morning, especially just to hopefully help that throughout the day. So I love that so much. Thank you again for being here. You guys go if you have not tried the Earthly products, you're missing out. In an ad that I just recorded for you, actually, I told about how my nieces love the teething product for their little babies, and they swear by it, say it's the best one out there. So, thank you for all that you're doing to create these amazing products for people. And you guys go give Earthly products a try. You won't be disappointed. And again, thank you, Kate, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe to the Just Ingredients podcast to learn more about your health and good ingredients to life. Plus, get daily tips at just.ingredients on Instagram.